What's up, my people? Welcome to week 6 edition of the Flea Flicker with Jackson Kane. It's a beautiful day outside. That's why I decided to do my video outside. Hopefully you can hear me. It's kind of windy, but yeah, great day, Saturday. Tomorrow we got a great slate of games, so let me get to it. All right, quarterbacks. Quarterback love this week. First quarterback, Drew Brees versus Carolina. Carolina obviously has been susceptible to the pass this year. Drew Brees in 2 games at home this year, he's got 799 yards and 7 touchdowns. In away games, he has 2 games, 470 yards and 3 touchdowns. So I like him at home against Carolina. Alex Smith at Oakland. Raiders dead last against the pass this year, 330 passing yards allowed per game. Raiders are also one of 5 teams to allow at least 12 passing TDs on the year, so love Alex Smith this week. Next guy, Russell Wilson versus Atlanta. Falcons are tied with the Lions for most passing TDs allowed with 14 on the year, and they're second worst against QBs in fantasy, allowing 22.4 points allowed in standard. QB hate this week, Matt Ryan at Seattle. Seattle, obviously a great defense. They're the best ranked fantasy defense against quarterbacks, and they have only allowed 201 passing yards a game. So keep Matt Ryan on the bench. Kirk Cousins versus Philly. Philly has allowed just 3 passing TDs this year. They all 3 came last week. Theo Riddick had 2 of them. Marvin Jones had 1. Eagles have just allowed 12.8 total points per game this year. They've had a really stingy defense. Not many fantasy points to be had for Washington this week. Another guy I hate this week, Ryan Fitzpatrick at the Cardinals on Monday night. Arizona, one of 4 teams with at least 7 picks this year. And Patrick Peterson will probably guard B. Marsh, so it's a tough matchup. Next group, wide receivers. Wide receiver love this week, Jeremy Maclin. Said I loved Alex Smith. Love Jeremy Maclin at Oakland. Raiders surrendering 28.8 fantasy points to the wide receiver position this year. Most yards allowed to wide receivers on the season, 1,095. So I love Jeremy Maclin. Next guy, Doug Baldwin versus Atlanta. Only 5 teams have allowed more receptions to wide receivers this year. Doug Baldwin in his last 7 home games is averaging 108 receiving yards and has totaled 9 TDs in those games. Odell Beckham Jr. versus Baltimore. I know Baltimore's got a great passing defense, but they have allowed the most receiving TDs to wideouts this year, 9. Also, Odell's probably the best wide receiver they've seen this year, so I like Odell in that matchup. Wide receiver hate this week, Deshaun Jackson versus Philly. Philly 5th best against fantasy wideouts, just 1 TD allowed on the year, and they're allowing just 193 passing yards a game. Alshon Jeffrey versus Jacksonville. This is a questionable one for me. Jacksonville's near the middle of the pack in terms of wide receiver fantasy points, but Jalen Ramsey should be guarding Alshon in this one. Add in that Alshon has a hamstring issue, and John Fox has been talking about how they're not worried about Alshon. They think he's getting the ball enough, which fantasy owners would disagree with, so I don't like the matchup. Brandon Marshall at Arizona. Patrick Peterson obviously is going to be guarding him. Of the 5 TDs allowed to receivers this year for Arizona, only 2 have gone to number 1 fantasy wideout on the team, Mike Evans and Jeremy Curley. Sorry it's a little windy if the camera's moving a little bit. Next position, running back love, Jonathan Stewart at New Orleans. I know it's his first game back, but New Orleans is allowing 28 fantasy points to running backs, which is 5 more points than the next closest team. LaShawn McCoy versus San Fran. No team has given up more rushing yards than San Francisco, and they're tied for the league lead in 20-plus yard rushes allowed with 5. Ryan Matthews at Washington. The Skins have allowed the second most rushing yards and 7 rushing TDs on the year. So start Ryan Matthews. Running back hate this week, Ezekiel Elliott at Green Bay. League's #1 rushing defense, obviously, allowing just 2 yards a carry and just 7.5 fantasy points on average to the position this year. LeGarrette Blount versus Cincinnati. Tom Brady's back. Less of a workload, and also since he's only allowed just 3 total TDs to running backs this year. Devontae Freeman at Seattle. Seattle just allowing 3.3 yards per carry, and they've only allowed 1 20-plus yard rush this year. All right, moving on. Tight ends. Tight end love this week. Delaney Walker versus Cleveland. Browns have allowed 43 receptions to tight ends, 7 more than the next closest team, and have allowed 5 receiving TDs to tight ends. Jimmy Graham versus Atlanta. Atlanta ranks 2nd worst against tight ends this year. They're allowing 12.6 fantasy points per game to the position, and they've given up 5 receiving TDs to tight ends. Colby Fleener versus Carolina. Panthers have allowed 4 TDs to the position, and the Saints are coming off a bye week. Tight end hate this week, Jordan Reed versus Philly. Eagles have allowed just 6 completions for 43 yards total on the year to tight ends, so not high on Jordan Reed. Dwayne Allen and Jack Doyle at Houston. Houston, the 2nd best team against tight ends, and they've allowed just 14 catches for 107 yards total. Jacob Tamme at Seattle. Seahawks have allowed the 2nd lowest amount of completions to tight ends, just 11, and also just 2 fantasy points on average to tight ends this year. All right, for my picks this week, chance to dance, I'm 0 for 5. I think it's cursed. I'm hoping not, but I'm picking Lamar Miller against the Colts this week at home. Indy has given up 7 total TDs this year to the position, so I'm banking on Lamar Miller to break the curse. Waste of space, Jordan Reed, just went over him. Tight end hate this week versus the Eagles. Tight ends are averaging just 1 fantasy point a game versus the Eagles. And my three bold predictions, LaShawn McCoy and Carlos Hyde will have at least 160 plus rushing yards combined in their game. Second prediction, T.Y. Hilton and Will Fuller will each have at least 1 25-yard plus catch in their game. And my last prediction, Ezekiel Elliott, running back hate this week, will have less than 85 rushing yards at Lambeau Field this weekend. So that's my video blog, the Flea Flicker with Jackson Kane. Thanks for watching, guys. Week 6 should be awesome. Good luck with your matchups. Let me know how you did, and enjoy the sweet matchups this weekend. All right, see you guys.